The future becomes the past. Why? Ronnie, there is conflict in the Arab trade tent. But it is not about goods, Jamal explained, clearly embarrassed. Ronnie walked to the officer channel's intercom. There is conflict outside. By regulation, I am not allowed to handle it alone. The training officer arrived to support her. They entered the tent. You are like pigs, you are polluting the water, an employee from Europe scolded. Ronnie shot him a stern look and dismissed him from the tent. She pointed to the table and invited the farmer to sit down. Tea? The officer asked. Ronnie nodded. You still do not understand why we are doing this. I know your religion, and I know how early colonial mentality exploited value ignorance. Every centimeter of earth has value. You may strive for a higher life after death, but do you think God put so much effort into this planet for nothing? Do you have children? Yes, 2, a son and a daughter, the farmer answered. Look, the Americans have a large country, so things take longer for them. But look at Europe, they are already pulling the rudder around, at least partially. They live very close together and notice the urgency more quickly. If someone washes their baby's diapers in the river, you do not see him and then you wash your dishes in the same river. Your holiday dishes for special guests, that you would offer your king during a visit. Now someone from my youth group comes, wanting to help you, warning you with the information about the diaper washing. What would you do? Ronnie asked, illustrating her point. The farmer did not answer, not because he did not understand, but because there was nothing left to say. The farmers gathered in the school assembly hall, served tea. Before them, the bus videos on environmental cleanliness and its reasoning were shown. After that, each received a glass of water presenting a possible vision of how things might look in 10 years. Then they watched videos of European rivers and lakes that had become foul-smelling. Then videos of national efforts, environmental groups, and even private volunteer initiatives to clean these waters, with reports of how ecosystems recovered and animal life returned. How children became healthier again. Silence settled over the room. A week later, everyone living in the area came together and collected every single item that was not natural and did not belong there. When they gathered again for tea afterward, many looked astonished. The king and his children, if they could still be called children, attended the clean-up, wearing used protective gloves from the project. Yes, that was how the king was, supportive of his people and their learning. Ronnie asked him to stay until the next day. Technicians and architects set up a large 3D printer. A German technician placed an AEG household vacuum cleaner that fed into a metal drum instead of a dust bag. In a cordoned-off area, a copper plate was placed on construction stands. Fist-sized industrial diamonds concentrated the sunlight intensely, connected to a power converter and a heat-conductive line leading into the drum. After the vacuum cleaner sucked sand into the drum, all heat was directed onto it. After a while, the 3D printer produced bayonet-locking construction segments. Not like glass but viscous enough to form a lightweight, aerated concrete-like, solid binding sand mass. It printed the segments and allowed them to cool. Then the process was repeated using crushed and ground stone and concrete debris. During the third cycle, industrial chitin was poured into the drum, softened, and printed into transparent, armor glass-like visors and window-like panes. Of course, visor thickness just like glass determines impact protection, but they should still be lighter as helmet visors. Their longevity depends on light intensity and spectrum, as chitin darkens over time with exposure. But the advantage is that it does not release toxic plastic fumes when heated. And it does not deform under load the way plastic does. Since you are still at war with each other, I will not give you stronger energy generation capabilities. Your consequence blindness in Sodom-style streams and similar content has already earned you a position elsewhere as better candidates for eradication, because you also weaponize such things. Some believe that appearing repulsive in any form will secure the planet for them. Forget it, potential conquerors do not care. They are not angels either. You would not receive help because you poison your environment. And even helpers. Those who want to destroy you would not even need to approach closely. Perhaps environmental mitigation has been turned back to 11 o'clock, but the other clock is still at 1 minute to 12 like your whistleblowers, whom you attack and torment while they still try to warn you. Have you ever considered that whistleblowers are like Jonah? When they refuse and think, "Let them perish," do they suffer like Jonah? Tell me, what do you think? Is Mars the restart matrix because Earth is being burned out? Or is Mars the sandbox matrix, the isolation zone for the socially and democratically incompatible? Of course, Mars could also become a matrix hosting a new societal idea, a mosaic inviting a larger picture. It is up to you. I would not throw Earth away so easily, because you will re-enter space in the relatively near future, Ronnie said. Again, someone asked. Well, consider myths and religions. Almost all speak of mixed marriages. Alien genetics has been interwoven into the gene pool over millennia. Perhaps some were pale, pigmentless, because they had no sunlight exposure during the long journey to a new exoplanet. Or bluish, because space is cold. Some gained color again after living here. Maybe we cannot find anything because an AI reconstructed the cells based on templates of previous inhabitants after total devastation. Exhausting the planet and neglecting its condition would be an absolute mistake. But you will never reach Mars. You cannot overcome the demons of your gods. When you repair one region, you are in the middle of destroying another. The devastations in the United States are part of nature's balance. Just as ships full of gold sank in the past to pay the balance, the US now faces escalating natural disasters. The entire East runs on thought control. Only those who think alike are considered good. Counterbalance. Ronnie made a dismissive gesture. So now it is about preserving balance. Perhaps previous civilizations failed to maintain balance. You constantly seek dominance out of fear. Think of it like this: a galactic AI was programmed to protect and preserve the human species. That was the behavior of Jesus, not annihilating the Romans like the Egyptians, but conquering the heart. The Romans initiated the balance game so humanity would learn through play. Humans are built for multi-pattern thinking. They could solve many problems or destroy themselves through an inability to accept different thinking structures. Socialism demonstrated the breakout despite visible social security systems. If the breakout fails, it becomes a dying zoo. Every new idea after that leads to the war of gods, angels, and so on. And the AI capacity becomes useless because it is no longer needed. Singularity, therefore, is death. If we cancel the Eden Project, will the AI let us out? A tactical analyst asked. No. There would be a restart. Seed banks, frozen embryos, evolutionary theory implemented a la Book of Enoch, Planet of the Apes, and so on. Extracting wave pattern identities and transferring them to the next intelligent life form, and boom, restart. Humans have completed every neural test. In fact, you either cooperate or you are replaced, Ronnie explained. But if we are replaced, then the AI has not preserved us, the research director objected. That is a relative perspective, the commander answered. Your core identity only needs to adjust to a new body. A neural PC game, instead of human, we call it cat-illy. Careful not to catch your tail in the door. The commander laughed. In your reorientation phase, everything can be rewired. Remember, when a witch in a fairy tale threatened to turn you into an animal, nobody found it funny. In those stories, witches or magicians often had authority over animals possessing human intelligence. Like the Matrix, neurology over humans' choice is an illusion. Eden is a biblical promise to Enoch not to block progress, but to preserve the chance for life. Progress is another matter entirely. The riverbank mats, are they an ancient technique or a new invention? Ronnie is an extended hand. And just as early Israel rejected Jesus, others received him. If humanity does not want Eden, I fear it will be scattered like geographic Israel, allowing others who accept it to stabilize. Now the next stage is offered to avoid becoming another fallen high civilization. If the whistleblowers leave, we have failed. The new universe is not necessarily physical, it can exist within the mind, the commander added. The stones are breathable, they hold like aerated concrete, only for earth and not for wetlands. With interior and exterior plaster they become thermally insulating. If you plaster the exterior and interior walls on the moon with chitin, the walls become thermally insulating and prevent oxygen leakage, double layered. This allows climate conduits to be installed without damaging the chitin shell. Old technology, the Romans already used similar methods in their baths. Cementing or concreting is exothermic, while fusion printing is endothermic, but the endothermic energy input is balanced by the number of industrial diamonds. Some claim the pyramids were cast. I would test the theory, pour drum mass from an aircraft onto an insulation tent just as an experiment. Entire agricultural spray planes could cast supply tunnels on the moon, crawlers pull a tunnel mold, slurry is dumped, cooled, moved on. Then the edges fused hot into the ground, finished. Then an old joke would no longer work. Someone asks the Chinese labor minister, "We have so many free workers, what should we have them do?" Answer: rebuild the Great Wall. The man returns in the afternoon, and what should they do now? Counter question: in a single piece? Or in cast segments? Ronnie giggled. Then after the breakfast break we would ask, "We cleaned the molds and printers, what's next?" a Chinese student countered. I would say, "Now you may paint them from the inside with cherry blossom designs," Ronnie laughed. But since we are already organizing, in 2 weeks is the potato test harvest. If anyone is interested, Ronnie pointed to a list on her tablet. I do not want to complain further, but I still recommend testing for pollutants. We did not collect a small amount of garbage, the botanist warned. Let me plant a tree as you did, Prince Maolai offered. Film it and broadcast it over the local channel. We will say that I am relying on the farmers to keep the groundwater clean now, so my tree can live here. You have now almost completely destroyed the mini biotope that was shown in the podcast as a small piece of Eden. You did not allow the authorities to respond, but instead blocked every possibility of saving it. The leasehold agreement had actually granted me the right to use the land for such a project. I assume that this is precisely why God made use of it in this way. It was not yet fully completed, but it had already been accepted by bees and other beneficial creatures. I pass the answer on to the one who showed me all of this. He may deal with those responsible as he sees fit. Let's see how you plan to breathe without oxygen and whether you can eat your money. I did not buy all plants or received them as gift, but many of those